And we're going to break up into groups now, and let's just talk a little bit about how that's going to work. There are two types of groups, okay? One is the fun group to see what the whole park is going to look like one day and all the things that you'd like to see in there. The other part, which I'm going to run, is the not so fun group, but it's going to be to redesign a smaller air runway so that we can deal with certain legal issues, number one. Number two, so we can finally provide the kind of safety barrier and buffer that surrounding houses observe. And number three, so we could continue to respect rights, even for a short time, to follow laws that may require one small part of the airport to remain an airport. And of course, if you can land a jet on a 70-foot runway, you're welcome to. But it may be that you can't. So that second group will probably be a smaller group of people, but that runway design is absolutely crucial to the people that surround it, who finally, after so many years, from LA trying to deal with Santa Monica, from Santa Monica trying to deal with city councils, finally get a chance to get the kind of buffer they need. So those are the two groups. Second, our main rule will be to have fun. You'll have a map. You'll have markers, you'll have facilitators, and how different from the city's visioning process, huh? So remember, you saw a lot of pictures about parks that were created out of nothing. But what we'd like you to also figure out is what makes a great park. What do you love? And Frank actually was the one that said, say this. What makes you love a park? Think of a park that you really like. What did you do there? What was the coolest thing in the world about it? And put it in this 220 acres. So let's break up now. Frank, how do you want to do that?
I just want to tell you how important what your contributions are. I went to over 100 community meetings for the Graham Park, and I can specifically remember various people saying, what about this, what about this? And there are things that other people hadn't thought of. And so your ideas and how you contribute really will happen. They really will go into the park.
Let me just say a couple things. The turnout tonight is fantastic, obviously. It's a little overwhelming. It's fantastic. But I do want to say is we only have 10 tables. Now, let me ask, how many people want to work on the quitclaim parcel and abbreviated runway plan with John? All right. I'm going to say one. That's going to be at this table over here, okay? The closest table here. All right? Now, what it is that you'll notice the tables only have 8 seats, and we have probably twice that number of people. So there's going to be a certain element of chaos here. What we have maps here. We're going to do it. We're going to do it. Okay. What we're going to do is, Josh, I'm going to nominate you. Guys, be quiet for a second, okay? Because Josh here is going to take, and Jessica here. They're going to take those roles there. The big role. Okay.
Everybody stand up. Everybody stand up. Find a table. The quitclaim guys are over here. Everybody else, find a table. We'll give you everything you need. Thanks a lot.
Okay. All right.
Measured by the residents. Unless we want to develop the language, I think we're gonna have to pay for it ourselves.
Walk off the runway.
Yeah, our city attorney is not going to let us do that. It's not going to happen. Well, just giving a reality check. That's not going to happen.
Also, you can slow down aviation. So are you saying widen aviation?
I think this is great because they've just passed Bergamot Village, which I think there are 13 intersections that they can fix.
You give us your individual map. We have more of them if you don't have one, with your own ideas. And be ready to put it up and give a little presentation. We can only do like 2 or 3 minutes for each one. I also want to remind everybody that we have individual maps with areas for your comments, and we would love to get those from you tonight, and we will tabulate those, or you could take them home and mail them in.
Okay. Okay, guys. Here is the first map. And remember, we had 2 types of map, one for the whole park and then one for boring guys like me that is going to look at the first phase, but we can start that first phase in July 2015. Now, we had all sorts of people at our table with all sorts of ideas. I've been looking at this map for a year, and they came up with about 5 ideas I haven't thought of. So let's go through them really, really fast, okay? Number 1, the quitclaim parcel is owned by the city. It is free of the claims of the FAA. The FAA claims that we have to use this as an airport forever. Our plan is, let's start with what is free of litigation. Let's not get in a lawsuit and wait for the lawsuit to end. Let's just do phase 1, and then while we're doing phase 1, we can start talking about phase 2. Now, very interestingly, even with the FAA claims, after July 2015, even with the FAA claims, there is no requirement to keep the runway any certain length. There is no requirement to keep the runway any particular location. So the very first thing that we thought of doing is in favor of the residents on the LA side of the boundary, move this end of the runway down so that the airplanes coming over these houses are much higher up, and then they only start coming down on the other side of Centinela. So the very first thing is move this end of the runway down. The city has the power to do that as the proprietor. Remember, proprietary powers of the city, regulatory powers of the FAA. So number 1, move that down, and once we move that down, people said, well, we should run Centinela, or maybe a little Centinela, through here. Take some pressure off of this, divide it through there. Okay? So those are 2 ideas to think about. Are they the best ideas in the world? Not necessarily. Are they the only ideas? Not necessarily. Does it have to be this point instead of another? Not necessarily. But the ideas are now in the hopper. Number 2. This is the part that we can have as a park. What do we want to see it be? I think Mark Rios would be proud of what a lot of people said. Number 1, a connector through to Cloverfield Park. How sensible. A connector, perhaps a tunnel, under 23rd to Penmar Golf Course, right? You could ride your bike in here, all the way through the park, all the way through here, all the way along Penmar, and get to the beach. A bike path right to the beach. Now, someone else said, hey, guess what? there's an old water course that used to be through here. Why don't we have that connector have some water in it? And I mentioned, well, listen, sewer pipes, if we found just some big honking sewer pipe that's serving all these houses and taking it out, we can tap into that, and it turns out that to tap into a sewer pipe and clean up the water sufficiently to make a brook out of it, you need an area about the size of a Cal King bed. You need an area of, and it costs about $100,000. You need an area about the size of a Cal King bed to put a waterway right through here, fed by the sewage water available 12 months a year from the local houses. Then they said, well, wait a second, we have a berm. And while we all know David Goddard wants to build a pyramid in here to view the ocean from, they said, let's build a berm. Let's have a view berm here, because this is already, anybody that's had the chance to bike through there, beautiful view of the ocean. So they liked that idea. You could come in through Cloverfield, you would connect through here, you'd have some water, then you'd go to the view berm and look around, and then maybe get right on your bike and go all the way to the ocean yourself. In addition, they said, well, listen, Aviation Avenue carries traffic. Maybe you close that down. Airport Avenue, I'm sorry, Airport Avenue. Maybe you close that down and cut it off and have no cars whatsoever. That was one idea. Other people said, no, 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 you need Aviation Avenue to get up here. You may even have to widen it to get up there to relieve traffic from these neighborhoods. Two different alternatives, both should be fully thought out. Everything's so complicated, it's not going to be answered tonight. But either way, what they said is, well, if you had traffic, you could put a big, long green strip there, right? Sort of like Mark was saying. Maybe it would be green, maybe it would be chopped up runway with trees growing through it, maybe something creative to match the creative arts community that is already settling into the building, right? Walk out of these beautiful buildings full of beautiful new creative art ideas into a beautiful green area that stimulates you. Finally, we also had, very interestingly, after talk about all the big uses, one person came forward and was, how about one place where it's really quiet? How about like a Zen, quiet space with no uses? How about something beautiful and Asian and Zen-oriented, right? And we said, let's put a Zen quiet space there. Now, because all this stuff is new, but we would be continuing the airport until we resolve what is the correct lawful way to end the FAA's interests, right? We all want to follow the law. Put a raised barrier here that provides a cool view, but also provides protection. Unfortunately, we know jets have fuel and fuel explodes, and so you really want some sort of barrier that if there's something happening here that's terrible, it stops right at the barrier. So we talked about a raised barrier that in fact could have a lot of design elements to boot. Hopefully we'd have somebody as talented as Mark figure out how to do those two things simultaneously. So that is our first of many maps. I understand we have another?
Well, let's go to, why don't we do the other map? Why don't we do the other map, unless you're in a real rush, but the other map that was on the quitclaim parcel.
Actually, no.
You want it? All right, by the way, I want to do something. John never introduced himself. This is John Stein, who's one of our organizers. All right, let's go. All right, folks, we do want to get out at 9, and we want to have a little bit of open time, but so try to keep these to 3 or 4 minutes. Yeah, and I'm going to deputize Marty. Marty, would you kind of look at your watch and try to give him a signal when it's like 3 minutes? Okay, because we do want to get everybody out here around the...
Jerry, thanks, Frank. Thank everybody for doing this. It's a great vision. Fantastic. We had a great table over there. Everyone was enthusiastic and excited. We didn't come out with any detailed stuff. We were just brainstorming visions of what could be there in the entire area. Trees all over the place. Viewing decks, water parks, skate parks, sculpture gardens, more dog parks, walking and bike paths all over the place. Ball fields that the kids need, lots of them. Playgrounds, accessible playgrounds, community gardens, shuttles taking people around, everything solar friendly, environmentally friendly bathrooms, ponds, a few of them. Someone suggested even having some paddle boats in there like they do in the Venice canals. A meditation area, I think that was being said by John, a quiet area. A carousel like they have in Griffith Park, but solar powered, just like we have a solar powered Ferris wheel on the pier. Shuffleboard areas for the older folks like me. Rock gardens, wetlands, a butterfly habitat, maybe a swimming pool, picnic areas, a green amphitheater for lectures, concerts, an exercise area, and of course we need food concessions, parking, information booths to educate people about everything and let them know where it is. So I'm all excited. Is everybody excited? Yeah. All right, who's next? That's it.
You got a plan? You got a plan? Come on. Oh, here we go.
Okay. Open mic. A lot of the ideas have been talked about already. One idea was the parks that I've been to, they have great landforms. The idea was maybe to take advantage of the high part of the site, create a mound here that could give you some nice views, create somewhat of a barrier, and then maybe even an amphitheater here that's sunken so that you could have big events in the area. It's a great large space. Maybe it'd be nice to have some large events that could be anything from games to concerts to whatever. And if it was sunken, the sound maybe wouldn't be a problem with the mounds. Continue the landscaping all the way through. Have a water element that's continuous, perhaps going through, winding through the site, that gives continuity. That would have bike paths and walkways along it. Perhaps a large body of water somewhere where we could have lakes, things like that. Feed it by recycled water or sewage, as they said, and then creating a lot of parkland along the stream for walking and for bikes, and maintaining some of the buildings that are there for uses, reusing them for artistic pursuits or for startups, green facilities. And we left the San Monica College pretty much as it is, hoping we could use the parking maybe for some of the larger activities here if they were to occur. So I guess that's about it.
Thank you. What our group really wanted was something that didn't have any playgrounds, anything like that. We wanted all of those kinds of activities to be natural. So we started with a large body of water, a lake, and the whole thing would flow down, and maybe there'd be another larger area of water coming down to a wildflower area. Everything would be using natural native plants. And we also have an amphitheater. We put it over here. We didn't really know where we wanted it. A lot of the buildings would be used for studios, theater. There is an existing theater. Some of the other buildings could be studios as well. We like the idea of having some restaurants and a shuttle from the expo line. We also we talked about a bike, sort of a bridge that could go across for bikes and pedestrians, as well as we didn't really map out where the bike path or the pedestrian walking trails would be, but that would be part of it. We wanted to put in public art and sculpture, possibly rotating exhibitions of those things. And is there anything else that we missed? That's pretty much it. Okay, so that's it.
Next.
Oh, and everything would be, just free use.
Have you ever been to Santa Fe, New Mexico? They got this kind of sculpture outdoor garden and like 5 or 6 studios right there, and they just stick their sculptures out there. Wow, somebody's got good handwriting here. Okay, sir. Oh, by the way, this is one of the guys. Tell them your background and what you did here.
So Matt and I, we had the opportunity to actually do this in a much more academic manner. We had a class where we...
Where was it?
At Cal Poly Pomona. This was last couple years, maybe? April of 2012, and we had a vision of what the Santa Monica Airport could be. This was much more fun and, very free-flowing. And our group actually, we kind of cheated. We had a expert park designer. This is Dash. So we're all adults. We're maybe more than, I don't know, 20 years of age. But I mean, users are really going to be Dash. Sorry. Okay. So our theme is the Everything Park, beer and boats, SMO, and just airport park. What Dash mentioned was, why not gut the planes, leave the cockpit, but let kids play and roam through it, and he wanted 5 or 6. He also wanted a large dragon where kids could also play. And then we have this informal play area with a petting zoo, Santa Monica Petting Zoo. One of our major themes is a pond in the center with creeks flowing through it. We wanted it to be like Central Park. We have the Santa Monica Brewing Company here with hops and other wheat and other organic local gardens to feed it. And then we have the art studios, we have cafe restaurants. We have this grassy rolling area where we're going to break up the runway concrete and create berms so we could get great views from the beach. To the beach, exactly.
Excellent. Come on. John, where's tape. And who's making this person? Matt? Yeah. Okay, so Matt is the other half of the dynamic duo. And by the way, if you like this design, it is Matt's photoshopping prowess that created it. He now works for that right-wing city of Berkeley, not real guy that's on the left like Santa Monica.
No endorsement there. I work with Don and Mark in the second back table back there, and we came up with a lot of great ideas. I think one of the main ideas was connecting paths in some manner to the north and south of the site. As Mark mentioned earlier, there was kind of that big gap that the airport creates between the north and the south. We wanted to connect to that. Someone mentioned flexible emergency response spaces, so in case there was a potential situation that these spaces could be used for recreational purposes, but also could be used to, say, land a helicopter. We like the ideas of having art and dance studios in these kind of buildings, so reusing the buildings. Don mentioned he would like to see a bike path that kind of connects the whole site, maybe in a circular manner, something that you can go from one side to the other with ease. We had a lot of talk about outdoor community theaters for the arts, and potentially a parking structure to address some of the issues of people visiting the site. And then I think the last thing was preserve the views. We like the idea that Mark put out there of connecting to the ocean, looking up to the mountains, looking down to Culver City or even downtown LA. And so preserving those views in some manner so that those could be part of the park. So.
Okay, put out there. And while we're waiting for it to be taped up, we forgot to mention Judy Abdo, former mayor and councilperson. Okay. Sir, your name is?
Gavin Scott.
Gavin Scott. He talks a little funny, but it's okay. Here, Gavin.
Thank you. Hi, I think if I had to sum up the principle that lay behind our thoughts on this was that the park should be full of surprises. That it should not be a place you should be able to take in one glance, that it should be mysterious, that for example, it should be covered with as many trees as we can put in there and as many winding paths which bring you to unexpected places. Some of the unexpected places that people were suggesting, one was a carousel, which is, and another one on the musical theme was the idea of some musical play stairs. One idea that I personally would love to see is a castle. When I was When I was a kid growing up in very flat Yorkshire, the park near us they'd built an artificial hill, and then they'd broken it up into little valleys and tunnels and canyons, and they'd built a castle on top. And I can't tell you how much fun that was. It was just, A, it had a view, B, you could fight as many battles as you want. It was just blissful. I think we all agreed, I won't repeat because other people have said, water features, streams, lakes, we definitely want those things as well. Sculpture garden is something people were enthusiastic about. Rock climbing, a chance for people to do rock climbing. An exercise area for older people. Kite flying. A bird sanctuary. And a wildlife habitat. So those are some of our ideas, but basically we think this should be a place that should surprise you.
Next. Come on, hurry up. Next. This is our fifth. Okay, here we go. And this is Ricardo. Is that your name? Richard. I'm sorry, Richard. And which part of where do you live?
Venice.
Venice.
So I struggled. I struggled through going up and down Walgrove all the time. So I will just touch on some things that were that maybe weren't said. One of the first ideas was, yes, it could be a wonderful park with unobstructed views, but we do need to stitch the city back together, and so having the streets cut through you would still be able to have the view all the way across because there's such a change in elevation from north to south that you would have to cut down and slice through the runway for that, and it could be done very nicely. And also, this idea of water or a river or a lake, I think it might be more realistic that it is a bioswale or something that catches the rainwater rather than having it just run off and sheet run off. There's an opportunity to clean and filter the water before it goes to the ocean or retain some of it during the winter time. So there could be a creek because the length is so long, and after it rains, there might be actually water in it for a while. Expand the playing fields and have 3 times as much. If you do trees, it would be with the buildings that are there to make them more sustainable, more comfortable, provide shade. All the rooftops, if the city owns them all, they could put solar panels on them and generate more energy. So I think our list here is similar to what people have. We roller rink, hockey, amphitheater, light rail connection. We don't forget about parking. And I think that's about it.
Wonderful. So good. Okay, and Robin Carmichael should be the last one. Actually, Robin Carmichael and Linda. Okay, Linda, you started off.
Oh dear. Okay.
Speak.
Okay. Can you hear me? So, well, some of our big ideas are that, some of the things that have already been said, which was making connections from the northern neighborhoods. There's North Venice Little League here, and there's, National Boulevard, and making that accessible so it's not just, you can go into it from that side. Then we also talked about possibly, we just picked one street here, which is 31st Street, which I think divides the Santa Monica Business Park, to make a vehicular connection north-south. And then, well, maybe. We were trying to figure that out because there's going to be some conflict between pedestrian and bicycling, so that's not exactly what it has to be. It's just what we came up with at the moment. Okay. Oh, there's just a few others. Was just retaining a portion of the runway for bicycle and pedestrian paths, and then maybe retaining some of the the existing airport elements, like the runway and airport hangars, just to show the historical value and preserve and let people know that, well, there is a museum there too, but to maybe expand on that, just to let people know that, you know, it was an airport, so.
Just some of the larger elements that we drew out were a big, great lawn, because there aren't very many big open spaces in Santa Monica. I had to throw in a skate park because I know they're fun. Farmers market, botanic garden, wetlands, the amphitheater down here, so you get a Red Rocks kind of thing with a view out behind. Adding more restaurants around Typhoon, though at the very last minute we said no, we should put them along here so that all these businesses have these outdoor cafes all along this edge. And we talked about widening Airport Avenue so that it could handle the traffic coming through.
Okay. Wonderful. Fabulous. Now, how's that? We are ahead of schedule. We are ahead of schedule, so I am going to open it up to questions. But first, Mark, this has probably stimulated some thinking. Come on up and give a couple comments. Come on.
So everybody, these are amazing ideas, and really good design can incorporate all of them and not come up with a weird camel, you know, that you can actually, I don't think any of those things are in complete controversy. And what's really terrific is just to start making these lists, really thinking about all the things you might want to have, and there are ways that all those things can coexist. When you look at a shopping list like this, you kind of go, oh my God, it's, you know, too complicated. There's too much going on. But the park is areas that are a lot denser and smaller scale things can happen. There are bigger spaces that could happen in the middle, however soft or hard they end up being, that you can take this sort of laundry list and prioritize it and position in ways that could really all work together.
Hit me with the 5 things that people said that you liked the most. 5 things.
Well, of course I like sort of quiet, unprogrammed, because I think you can do too much, so I think that's really important. I think tying it into the city is really important. So there are other ways to get through it and connect to it, whether it's from the park down to the golf course, all those connective things are really important. Trying to do something that's environmental as far as the swales and drainage and water and penetration of the water into the ground table, that's really important. Number 4, really support the arts. Have these kind of community buildings that can have galleries and events and things like that. And number 5, I think that you have to have all these other things like restaurants and cafes, otherwise people don't want to stay a long time. So you hit them all.
And with all those things in there and 220 acres, do you have a ton of space that is just open and wild left over?
Yes.
All right. Okay. Well, Mark, actually, Frank, you're the guy here that organized this whole thing.
Okay. All right. Mark, first of all, we're just blown away. You stayed here all the time, listened to everybody. This is just to our appreciation for what you did. Okay, you know. All right, and okay.
Just one last thing. You guys are on your way. You've taken this huge step, and all of you, by doing these drawings, you've made it a commitment. And you have to like stay connected and talk to everybody you know. And by writing down those ideas, you know what you want. So just keep fighting for them.
Okay. We do have some time and on our schedule for a general conversation. If people want to make some comment. Okay. All right. And then we will have a wrap up from my side.
How to stay connected. Well, John, why don't you say something?
There's a registration page on the Airport to Park website. Airport to Park. And so if everybody registers there, we'll be able to keep you in touch and notified of everything. So that's a critical thing for everyone to do.
Yes. Yeah, you'll be put in. Great question. Okay, Holson. Right. Let's give the issue, because you had a lot of chance to think about it. These dotted lines, which Matt Otteson was so kind to add, is the boundary with the city of Los Angeles. As you know, the quitclaim parcel is down here. That's all Santa Monica. But even though the FAA claims this, their only requirement is use it as an airport. You could slice off this part and keep it wild, even if it's officially an airport. Marty, tell us a little bit about the idea of the LA jurisdiction.
The LA jurisdiction idea, coming from a lawyer like you want me to talk about that? Well, the fact is that Santa Monica owns...
We both lived in Philadelphia for a while, so we talked to each other a little differently.
Very true. Although it's in Los Angeles, it's owned by Santa Monica, like you own property. And that happened, I'm not 100% sure. We're still trying to figure out what the rights are of the city of Los Angeles and how that's used. Ironically, when jets line up to take off, the pollution gets drawn in downwind to LA. So environmentally, we thought there might be some way to address that through the city of Los Angeles, and I think they're looking into that. It's underway, but I'm not exactly sure what you wanted me to say. Am I answering it?
You just said the key parts, is that LA has jurisdiction as a city, but Santa Monica is the landowner, and this is the boundary between the two. And I think that that's an important concept, because in the future, creative different things can happen, especially since Councilman Bonin is so strong for closing the airport, and especially since Ted Lieu is so strong. Ted Lieu is so strong in taking theories that were avant-garde when Marty first started talking to him 30 years ago, and now are totally mainstream in what the state wants to see happen in terms of ultrafine particulates, lead in the air from aviation fuel, and...
Well, all the environmental reasons are there why this needs to become a park. It'll benefit so many as opposed to benefiting so few.
Great. Well, great. Next, in the back. You next? Well, you know, Burbank Airport, LA Airport, taking up the slack. We're kind of going to leave those aside because that's sort of pro-airport, anti-airport. We're more looking at land use and in terms of what is the highest and best use of this absolutely unique parcel. You know, the value of this parcel, if you could buy something like this, it's about $2 billion, just to give you an idea of how unique it is. Now, sir, you were next. Is there any need to coordinate with the California Coastal Commission? David, why don't you come on up and... It's only a mile. It's more than a mile from the ocean, so no requirement at all, sir.
Yeah, I saw the letter that Congressman Waxman wrote, and that was good. Is there a plan to update him about the exciting stuff that's happening in this area and get his support, just like Senator Lieu and Mike Bonin?
You're exactly right. It's been 30 minutes. We haven't called him yet.
Right. And the other thing I want to know is if David Goddard's still here, can the Airport Commission, is it in their purview to be able to support something like this? I would hope that there is some way to have people come in and give a discussion about it at the commission meeting, but is there something you would be able to do or not? We're an advisory body to the city council, so we could advise the city council to support this.
Okay, one last one, sir.
Yeah, I was thinking on the website, you know, we need some way to find out what we like, what we want. We can put a bunch of ideas on the website and put a rating system on that website. And people can go to the website and rate their idea.
Hey, great idea. By the way, that's the guy that does the website work, so He actually had a lot of hair when he started activism. Michael, why don't you take us home?
Hey, everybody. I'm Michael Brodsky. I'm a resident of Santa Monica. And this is not a public city council meeting or anything. It's really just a group of people that have an idea for some exciting changes in the world around them. And I'm really glad you're here. In fact, I'm amazed by the creativity and the excitement and the passion that everybody's brought to this. I first want to thank Jonathan Stein for his MC abilities. Thank you. So I've been asked to talk just for 2 minutes on the next steps to make this a reality. If this is what you want, we all have work to do, and it's not going to happen by itself. This is an amazing thing that you are all planning and proposing, but it's all going to be you who are going to make this happen. So coming up next on Sunday, November 3rd, is a picnic in Clover Park, where we could sit down and talk about these ideas. We can get a chance to network, get more input, attract more volunteers, because we're going to be needing all of you to email and leaflet and walk the streets and communicate with the city council by the hundreds and by the thousands if we want to make this happen. And we don't have much time. So in January, we're going to have a panel discussion on how to fund the park. That's F-U-N-D, so we can get some F-U-N out of it. And how it can be economically viable. And we've got a lot of smart people that are working on the economic end so that we can answer many of the questions that people have about how do you make this happen. In February, we're going to present the ideas from tonight's workshop and from some other workshops to the City Council in advance of their March meeting, where they are gathering to talk about the future of this land. Okay, March, so we don't have much time. That means we all have to work. So we're going to need you at all of those meetings. Okay, this was the fun one. Some of those other ones are not going to be quite so fun. So finally, I dream about parks. 40 years ago, I stood in Berkeley, California, when a group of young kids carved out a park in a parking lot. Does that sound familiar? Okay. And who had ever heard of such a crazy thing, turning a parking lot into a park? And I remember a sign that I saw, and it said, "Let 1,000 parks bloom." Okay, I still remember that. So now, 40 years later, 44 years later exactly, in a time of global warming and climate change, all over LA, from South Central to San Fernando Valley, from the east side to Santa Monica, people are carving out gardens and parklets all over the city. This park here in our backyard can be the crowning glory and sustaining legacy for a healthy and happy life. So thanks for coming out. Okay. And we're going to make this happen.
Feel free to take some time, talk to everybody, but I want you to tell everybody that not only did you have fun tonight, but that you got out 8:45, 15 minutes early. Thanks for coming.